Hello, everybody. I'm Amelia,
I'm Tom.
and we have a great story for you this week. Wow, one of the absolute best stories in the entire Bible, if you ask me. So,
Right.
from Mark 4, Jesus subduing the chaos monster. So, take it away, Tom.
Stilling the storm. Okay, here we go. Well, on that day, when evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's go across to the other side." So, leaving the crowds behind, they took him with him just as he was. And there were other boats with them. Suddenly, a great storm of wind arose, and the waves were beating into the boat so it was already starting to fill up. And Jesus was asleep in the stern on a cushion. And his disciples woke him up and they said, "Teacher, don't you care if we die?" And Jesus got up and he rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Be silent." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to his disciples, "Why were you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And they said to one another, "Who is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?"
Thank you, Tom.
All right.
Yeah, I was remembering as you were telling it, years ago, we had a vacation Bible school based on, learning biblical stories. And so I taught this one. And it's just so much fun because it gives permission for the kids to make all kinds of noise, and we would get this blue cloth and shake that to be the water, and we'd have instruments to make noise, and they'd make wind noise, and then somebody, whoever gets to be Jesus, just says, "Be still," and everybody gets quiet. It's just like amazing, and the kids, of course, love that. Both the power of making all that noise and the power of being able to stop all that noise and chaos. So.
Yeah.
And I suppose the chaos does remind me a little bit of Vacation Bible School too. So yeah, it's great stuff. All right, but it starts out with this sort of setting signature when it was evening on that day. No, just when it was evening. Jesus said, anyway, go to the other side. So a couple of questions are why. I mean, we never can really get inside Jesus' mind, but we could speculate a little bit about why did he say, let's go to the other side. And what is the other side also? That we probably do know.
Yeah. Yep. Well, this was a big deal. To go to the other side of the Sea of Galilee was to go to Gentile territory. It was to go into another country. And the sea was a major border. And so so this was then an announcement of his intention to continue his mission of the proclamation and signs of the kingdom of God in enemy territory. And so the story that follows this is that he went to the country of the Gerasenes, but the other side meant that. And of course, the other side is kind of symbolic, because, I remember, high school football games. And we'd sit on one side and the opponents would sit on the other side. And so, it was an example of, this kind of bifurcation. In this case, it was a major other side, a whole different culture, different people, different language. Greek would be the dominant language on the other side in the cities of the Decapolis. So this was a big deal. And when he said, let's go to the other side, he was saying something, a major extension of his mission and ministry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned which side of the football stadium you sit on. You and I went to a Cincinnati Reds game last week, and it was a Reds game, but we sat with they were playing the Phillies, and we sat in their area, and every time they would get a home run, immediately my son would like start cheering because everybody around us is cheering. And we go, oh no, that's the other team.
So, right.
Yeah, we went to the other side in that case. Okay, so all right, back to the story. They get into a boat, and there's quite a lot about this boat. And I guess it's Jesus, and I guess he's got all 12 of his disciples with him. So got 13 men, and I guess it's a fishing boat. I mean, what do we know what they would have looked like? When I think of a fishing boat, I think of or like a rowboat, which does not hold 13 men. So help us envision what this boat would have looked like.
Well, I think we've got a picture that we could show. This is was an archaeological thing. There was low water in the Sea of Galilee, and a couple of guys saw the outline of this boat, and so they dug it up and restored it. So this is a boat from the first century. This doesn't have anything to with. There's no claim that this was Jesus' boat or anything, but it gives you an idea. And the thing that is striking about this is how shallow the boat is. The estimate is that it was like 4 feet. Well, 4 feet, it sits down a couple feet in the water, so that there was, like a foot, 2 feet of the boat from the water, which worked for fishing, because they'd want to, didn't want to have a high sides of the boat. But
yeah, you could see how it would be swamped.
Yeah,
really easily. That's a good word.
Right. So I remember, us sailing on, boats in the Hudson River and there was a storm, a lot of wind. The waves were 2-3 feet tall, and we were going through those on this sailboat. But it was high enough that we didn't, it wasn't getting swamped. But if it had been much higher, there would have been water splashing into the boat. These boats were not built for going through storms, though the Sea of Galilee was subject to sudden storms because Mount Hermon was just to the north. And so storms would come down the mountain and, cold fronts or would come down, and there'd be, big storms, and they'd come on very suddenly, just rolling down the mountain. It was something that did happen.
Yeah, I mean,
but not very much.
Storms are life-threatening themselves, but I'm guessing that the storm also represents something other than just a windstorm in this case. Is that?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
In the traditions of Israel, a big storm like that was representative of the powers of chaos. And so the myth related to that was that these storms were caused by the chaos dragon who lived under the water and would come up and cause these big storms and would cause chaos. And so the stories of the chaos dragon were part of the culture of the first century. And so when this story is told, it evokes those memories of the chaos dragon and associations with the powers of chaos. And we all know about the powers of chaos in our offices and in our politics and in the world. that suddenly, things would get chaotic and really frightening.
So when Jesus says, peace, be still, and in the story he says that to the wind and to the sea. I mean, he's speaking to the wind and the sea. Is there more to his, what does that mean that he's saying that?
Well, the Greek words are interesting here, and I don't quite understand the translation. The first one is siopa, which means be silent. That's translated peace. It's not a bad translation, but that isn't the word. The Greek word here isn't the Greek word for peace, irene, but is be silent. And I couldn't remember the second word, which is to be still, which is another Greek word, phimao, that means be muzzled, was its basic meaning. And so it's like putting a muzzle on a dog that is,
Yeah, well, putting a muzzle on the chaos monster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
so the words here are interesting in the Greek. But they are words of control, of commands.
Silence, kind of like Jesus speaking to unclean spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these are big. This is a big spirit.
Right.
This is the chaos dragon spirit that that Jesus rebukes and gets under control.
Yeah, it's interesting. When Jesus casts unclean spirits or demons, out of individuals, it does feel like an individual kind of thing, except maybe in the case of Legion. But in this case, it is more a bigger evil spirit, like, that would impact whole systems.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so he subdues the chaos dragon. He calms the sea and the storm, and the disciples are amazed, and they say, well, they're afraid, I think. But anyway, they say, who is this? What's the answer to that question?
Well, the implicit answer is this is a divine figure. This is a person who is on the scale of the myths and the chaos dragon and so on. Who is this? The simple answer is this is God. But they at this point are not saying that. But that's the question that is implicit in, that's the answer that is implicit in their question.
Yeah.
Who is this that has power over the wind and the sea? Well, the only kinds of figures that have power over the wind and the sea are gods. In this case, the answer is this is God.
Yeah, right. And so how does this story speak to us today in terms of issues around justice and peace?
Well, one of the things that I remember, this is small scale, when my boys were young, I remember, Michael would ask me to tell him a story every night, and this was his favorite story. That would enable him, I think it enabled him to go to sleep, to not be afraid of, whatever the chaos dragons are that were, kind of around. And in relation to ministries of justice and peace, one of the things that happens is that in times of chaos, people respond frequently by becoming violent, by trying to get the powers of chaos under control by violence. Jesus' way is a different way. And so to have faith and confidence in the divine power to get the powers of chaos under control, and to both, I don't know, symbolically in terms of this story, to muzzle them, but it's also an internal thing, that the powers of chaos are things that take over in people's lives. And so we have a lot of people who respond to chaotic situations in their life by taking drugs or running away, or just being panicked and being anxious inside. So it happens at a mega level. It happens at a micro level of individuals. So the connection, I think, to ministries of peace is to have faith, to have confidence in the powers of God to bring the powers of chaos under control.
Yeah,
that's the source of nonviolence, of having faith and confidence in invisible powers of God that can bring things under control.
and I think part of the significance of that is it's so easy, at least it is for me, when I learn and care and want to do something about the big issues, systemic racism, mass incarceration, economic inequality, nuclear warfare, that possibility. It's easy to get so discouraged or so frightened that you just want to back off and not think about it, and just read your mystery novel or whatever, which isn't bad. We all have we have to cope, but having the confidence that there is a God who cares and who ultimately will prevail over these things helps us persist in the work that we need to do to make a difference in the world and make changes in those things.
Those systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is a story about having confidence to continue ministries of justice and peace, which often feel hopeless.
Right, and not get discouraged. And I think Jesus was often addressing that tendency for us to get discouraged in those efforts.
Right.
Right. So don't get discouraged this week.
Okay.
It's a great story to learn for so many reasons. Whether it's the chaos in your own personal lives that feels like it's going to break you, or the chaos in our communal lives seems so intractable. So learn it, enjoy it.
Right.
Have a good week.
Have a great week.
Bye.